So I'd like to welcome all of you here today to Paths for Publication. My name is Karen McIntosh, and I will be hosting this today, at least facilitating it. Maybe that's a better word. For those of you that are new to Paths to Publication, this is a professional development workshop that we have twice a month on Thursdays, the second and fourth Thursday, starting at 10. And our goal is to basically provide experts in their field to come talk to us about writing, research, grants, and anything that allows us to push forward in publication. So we are thankful for the ELRC and Credella for hosting this series and welcome all of you today. The way this is going to work is we will have about 40 minutes of our guest speaking, and then there will be about 20 minutes or so of question and answer and discussion. So we want this to be an interactive experience for you guys and hope that you will get out of it everything that you need. So we're excited about that. So let me share move on my Zoom boxes. All right, so Kim Kearns is going to introduce our speaker today.
Howdy, y'all. Dr. Patricia Goodson is a professor of health education in the Department of Health and Kinesiology at Texas A&M University. She obtained a bachelor's degree in linguistics and a master's in philosophy of education from universities in Brazil. And I apologize for not saying them, Dr. Goodson, but I don't speak Spanish and I'd have butchered it. A master's in general theological studies from Covenant Theological Seminary and a PhD in health education from the University of Texas at Austin. At A&M, she has taught mostly graduate level courses such as health behavior theory, health research methods, health program evaluation, health education ethics, and advanced health behavior theory. In 2007, while acting as Associate Dean for Graduate Program Development, she created and implemented a college-wide writing support service for graduate students based on the power model described in some of her books. Currently, as a director of College of Education and Human Development's writing initiative, the Power Series, she offers a basic and advanced writing studios for graduate students in college on a regular basis and occasionally teaches writing workshops for the faculty at Texas A&M and at other universities. Dr. Goodson has won several department, college, and university level awards for her teaching and research, such as the Presidential Professor for Teaching Excellence and Outstanding Mentoring Award at Texas A&M University, the Ann E. Nolte Writing Award from the Foundation for the Advancement of Health Education. While she considers mentoring graduate students the most fulfilling part of her career, a couple of research interests vie for her attention. Her research focuses on topics such as sexual health of adults and adolescents, the history of HIV/AIDS epidemic, and public health genomics. She has published extensively in high-impact journals, has reviewed for several prestigious publications, and has served as a book review editor for the Journal of Sex Research. One of her intellectual passions is theory, and her other book presents a critique of health education's current use of theory in both research and practice.
All right, Dr. Goodson, I will allow you now to share your screen, and we look forward to what you have to share.
Thank you so much. I just need to make one little correction on that list of awards, Kim. I did not get the McNulty one award. I was nominated for it, but I did not get it. So just so you know. And I apologize for having a PowerPoint presentation. It's more for me than for you in the sense to remind me of what I want to say. And this is going to be a challenge because I was telling Karen and Kim before we started, I can barely say my name in 40 minutes, and now we have less like 33 minutes to do that. So I'm just going to throw a lot of stuff at you guys, and you'll have access to this presentation, what I've said here, and you know where to find me in emails for later, but I cannot do a whole lot in 40 minutes and do the topic of writing any justice in 40 minutes, but we'll try. So I'm going to mention a lot of things and then say, I'm going to give you resources for that later on. And first of all, just let me say thank you for inviting me to be here. I was expecting like 5 or 6 people, which is what I normally get in presentations. And now that all of these people and some of you that I haven't seen in a while, it's great to see again and all that, has made this sound rather formal, and I hope it's not. And I hope you ask questions when I stop my talking. I have timed it here. I'll stop. We'll have time for questions. I hope you'll ask all the questions you have. And if we don't have time, again, send me an email, which is the best way to find me. So let's start talking about the content itself. And I titled this presentation, Academic Writing Beyond Tools and Beyond Strategies. And I'm basing this presentation on an article that I wrote for the Textbook and Academic Authors Association winter newsletter, which is also available. I'm going to put it on the chat, the file for that newsletter. I'm going to put it on the chat for you guys to have access during the question and at the very end. So if you stay at till the very end, you'll get that file with that article. And some ideas that are kind of percolating in my mind about how I approach and how I view writing are in that article, and I'm going to share some with you today. So beyond tools and beyond strategies. So the impetus for thinking this way about writing is because I get a lot of this question, right? What should I do to become a productive and successful academic author? So people come to me and they want like a list of ingredients, right? What are the ingredients and what do I need to do? What do I need to have? And when people ask this question to most people, and even to me sometimes, people answer by saying, well, okay, you got to do this and you got to do this and try doing this. And usually, especially if it's in a hurry, one of those rushed conversations, right? Usually give the person one suggestion, like write every day in small chunks, or are you keeping track of your writing? So everything you keep track of happens when you're trying to change your behavior. So we tend to spit out suggestions, one here, one there, try this, try that. But then what has happened with me over the years is that a lot of the students or a lot of people that ask that question get some of these tips, then go and try them. They come back and say, oh, I tried writing in small chunks every day. That doesn't work for me. I tried scheduling my writing on my planner every day. That doesn't work for me. I tried keeping track of my writing and logging. That doesn't work for me. And I'm going, that intrigues me because it works for me. And I am no different from any of you. You know, I am a procrastinator. Most of the time I don't enjoy the task of writing. It's only rarely that it's enjoyable. It's work, right? And you just got to do it whether you feel like it or not. So I'm going, why do these things work for me and they sometimes don't work for other people? So as I'm thinking about this, I suddenly started to realize that the problem are not the strategies or the tools that are offered, but the problem is that the strategies or the tools are used in isolation. So in the article that I mentioned, that I'll give you the file with the article, I talk about how, if you want to make an apple pie, just having the isolated ingredients don't an apple pie make, right? So apples alone don't make an apple pie. You have to put those ingredients and those elements together and develop, therefore, what I'm thinking about and calling a system. We need to have a system for our writing because just doing one thing here, one thing there. So for instance, I try writing every day in small chunks. That doesn't work, so I'll drop it and then I'll look for another tool and maybe I'll track it. Okay, so I'm tracking that doesn't work and I'll drop it. But the idea is that sometimes they do work in isolation, but seldom do they work very well. There's something about having those ingredients for your apple pie all mixed together and working together because they modify each other, they relate to each other. So we need to start thinking about writing as a system. And this is a very static image of a system here, but that kind of helps you think about a system, right? So what is a system? A system is basically a set of elements that have a boundary, they're bounded, but they interact with each other over time. Time is a really important dimension for most human systems, right? So the idea here is that for you to become a productive academic writer, you have to have this writing system that has this, or this set of elements that has these elements at minimum, right? The main element, which I portray and represent here by the cone, the main element, of course, is you. You are the writer, you're the controller of this system in a way. But the other minimum elements that you need in this system are, you need a set of strategies, you need a set of tools, you need a set of support. So you need subsystems inside this system in a way. And it's when you have all of those pieces, all of those elements, and you don't have to have all exhaustively all of them, but you have some in each set. You have some strategies, you have some tools, you have some support, and you're aware of yourself as a writer and learning about it. Those things start interacting with each other, and there's a synergy and almost a magic that happens, that the writing then starts emerging out of that, and your maturation as an academic author starts coming out of that system, right? So I'm going to briefly, because I don't have time to explain all of the elements I'm going to mention here, I'm going to be mentioning them. And then I'm going to point you to a few resources where you can learn more in depth about each one if you want to. But just so I hope that the takeaway from today is that you're thinking, do I have a system for writing? What is my system? What are the elements in my system, and are they interacting? That's the takeaway, if you can. More than
Hey, Pat, this is Tim Lightfoot. Would you put your PowerPoint on full screen, because some of the writing's kind of small?
Okay, I will. Hang on. It doesn't make it. Does it make it enough? Yep. Larger?
That's
because
much better. Thank you.
I can't enlarge it more than that. So yeah.
Well, no, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the first element in the system, which is you, right? So you need to start looking at yourself as an academic writer, as an academic author. You need to know yourself. So you need to have self-awareness and self-control. You need a minimum of emotional intelligence to be able to manage yourself. A lot of people come to my workshops and say, oh, I'm here because I want to learn how to better manage time, be a better time manager. And every time that's my pet peeve. Every time somebody says that, I go, the moment we can manage time, we'll be able to time travel. So there's no such thing as time management. We can't manage time yet. Maybe someday we'll be able to manage it. But we can't manage the weather very well either. We can predict it, but we can't manage it, right? And we can't manage time. But the only thing we can manage is ourselves vis-a-vis the time we have, right? So how much do you know about yourself? Like, when's the best time to write? Or what keeps you going? Or what blocks you when you're writing? So knowledge about yourself as a writer is something that you need to have. And it's not just a one moment thing. This is something that you need to keep checking yourself as a writer, because you're going to change. Remember that time thing that I talked about? Systems over time? You're going to change. And something that worked last semester for you may not work this semester, and that's okay. But you know about it. So you need to ask the questions, who are you as a writer? Do you see yourself as an academic author? Do you have that identity? If not, how can you start developing? What makes you want to write? What is it that makes the writing get in a roll? What makes it stop, and what blocks you from writing, right? What kind of mindsets do you have? Do you have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset about writing? Do you view writing as something that you can learn and improve? Or do you view writing as, oh, I was not born a writer, so I'll never be a writer type of thing? That's a fixed mindset. But if you have a growth mindset, it says, oh, everybody can learn this. I can learn it too, and I can improve. I just need to know how. Then you have a growth mindset that's going to really propel you forward in your career as a whole, not just the writing. Ask yourself, ideally, what would my writing productivity look like? What do I imagine, sometimes fantasize, that I would look like if I were a really productive academic writer? And then realistically, what does my writing productivity look like right now? And why does it look like that? So you're asking all of these questions continually about yourself, and you're learning how to self-manage and self-control in this process, because you are a very important element in the system, right? But another element in this system, if you remember the cone, the strategies, right? A set of strategies. So what do I mean by strategies? I mean a set or a list of actions, practices, behaviors, things that you do in a certain order with a certain level of organization and hopefully routinely. I'll get to that later on when we talk about that routine stuff. But one strategy that's really important is to actually, it involves an approach and a mindset, is to approach academic writing as something that requires practice. Everything else in life that we learn or that we do that involves our minds, our brains, and our bodies requires practice. If I told you today to go learn and play the violin, the first thing that would come to your mind is, I need to get an instrument, but I need to practice. I mean, practice is so inherent to everything else that we do, right? How come? Why is it that we don't think about, we need to approach writing with this perspective that we need to practice it, which means do it over and over again with feedback, but with the prospect, or with the hope, and with the knowledge that you're just going to get better and better and better as you do it. For some reason, writing in general, and especially academic writing, there's this expectation that when you write, the first thing that you put down on the screen or on paper, that's it. That has to be perfect. It has to be really good. And we don't have that notion that when you put something on paper first, it's going to be awful. It's going to be probably really bad, but then it's there and you can polish it, you can edit, you can practice making it better, right? So the idea of practice and that approach is really an important set or an important part of the strategies that I teach with the power model. So if you ever come to my classes, studios, etc., I'm going to emphasize that idea of practicing. But practicing, it's a special type of practice. It's called deep or deliberate practice. And the idea of deep or deliberate practice is just a type of practice that has certain characteristics. And one of the characteristics is that it is done repeatedly, but in small chunks and with a goal. So every time you have a writing session, make it short, even if you have several writing sessions that are short. But the idea of small investments of time and energy with breaks produce very interesting outcomes. So that has to do with complexity science also, that in a complex system, and we're talking about a complex system here, sometimes very small inputs into the system produce disproportionate outcomes in the system. And so with writing, it's amazing what you can do if you are, especially if you're aversive to writing, it's amazing what you can do if you say, okay, how many minutes can I do it without throwing up? And you say, okay, I can do 10 minutes. All right, set your timer, 10 minutes, do 10 minutes, take a break, walk away, time the break so you don't get lost in the break either. And then 5 minutes later, come back again and do another 10 minutes. And you'll see there's so many advantages to doing that in small chunks. You'll see your work just move forward in very interesting ways. So the idea is don't underestimate ridiculously small investments of time. If you have an interest in this, there's a little book called The Kaizen Way that talks about that because when we propose to ourselves ridiculously small amounts of investment, we don't resist. So if I tell you, if you're really resistant to writing, you hate writing, but I tell you, can you do 2 minutes? 120 seconds, 60 seconds and then 60 seconds. Can you do that? You'll probably say, sure, I can do that, right? So there's no reason. But if I say, can you do 2 hours of writing tomorrow? And you probably go, oh, wait a minute, like 2 hours, way too much, right? So the idea here is that ridiculously small investments of time, if you make them, can actually have very interesting outcomes at the end. So take a look at that little book called The Kaizen Way. It's a gem of a book. Another strategy, and I don't have time to detail why it's important here, but it's really good strategy, is separating the writing process into 2 moments, generating the ideas and capturing them in whatever shape or form they come, and then editing those ideas and polishing the heck out of them, right? The problem with writer's block, we get writer's block when we try to do the 2 things at the same time, to generate a good idea and to polish it and present it polished already. When we try to do the two, we grid block, we completely block, because there are reasons for that, and I don't have time here. But try to separate, try to tell yourself, okay, right now I'm just going to capture my ideas. And when I say capture, capture in any shape or form, any language, any medium. So sometimes I'm writing and capturing ideas and I can't think of the darn word for the thing. I'll put the thingy, or, I'll put a number, or I'll put this thing I'm thinking about, or I'll put it in Portuguese, which is my second language, or first language, I don't know anymore, or put a picture there or something. Or when you're generating, don't type or write, record. Most of the people that are making gazillions of bucks writing books, which is not us, of course, but those people that are, guess what? They're not writing their books, writing in the traditional sense of typing or handwriting. They are dictating, they're talking their books. And so now with speech recognition software all around, just get your phone and start talking, and it starts putting it into text, and you capture your ideas. Later, when those ideas are captured and they're messy and ugly and the grammar's wrong and the language is not English anymore at a certain point, doesn't matter. Then you move into editing mode, and now we're going to polish, make it sound academic, make it correct, make it precise, make it sharp, and make it have value. Right? So separating the two instances, the two moments in writing, is one of the strategies that for me made the most difference in my writing, especially in how much I could write all of a sudden if I gave myself permission to just capture everything in a messy way and then later clean it up and not try to do the two at the same time. For these practices of doing things in small chunks, folks, use a timer. Timers are our friends, especially for doing things that we don't want to do. Whenever you have a task that you absolutely hate, negotiate with yourself what's the minimum amount of time you can stand doing that task. And if it's 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever it might be, set your timer for that and do the task, because just knowing that it will end, that you don't have to suffer with it for 8-10 hours, will make you do something. And after you do something, you're more inclined to do something else and something else later. Use the Pomodoro technique. Google Pomodoro timers. You'll find those. Those are fun little timers that allow you to stay on task a certain amount of time, let's say 20 minutes, and then 5 minutes off, or 25, 35, whatever it might be. The secret here is just try to avoid binge writing. Try to avoid long writing sessions where you're on a roll and it's fun and it's coming. Oh my goodness, my paper is coming out, right? And then you lose track of time and you look at the watch and you go, oh, I've been at this for 2 hours. Now I'm tired. So the principle here is avoid working yourself to exhaustion because you don't want to come back later. That's the problem. So the beauty in the small chunks is that every time you break, you're not exhausted yet. And sometimes, many times, you're eager to come back. So you take a 5-minute break and you can't wait to come back, and you're not working yourself to exhaustion. So tomorrow you go, oh, I can do more of this, right? Whereas if you lose track and you write for 3-4 hours today and you're exhausted, tomorrow you go, I'm not going to write today. I wrote 4 hours yesterday. That's like 2 hours and 2 hours. And we start doing those mind games and we don't want to come back to it. So avoid binge writing as much as you can. Timers and these strategies are the best for that. Manage your distractions. Also, manage your contingencies. Prolific writers know what disturbs them, what distracts them, so what interrupts them, and they manage those things. Pre-COVID days, signs on doors saying, I am writing, come back later, whatever it might be. A friend of mine was a faculty member here at A&M. She used to have on her door a little sign when she was writing. She would put a sign on her door that said, I am writing, please come back at X time. She would write the time. Have you written today? I bet a lot of people got back to their offices very quickly and started writing after they saw that, right? Another thing too that's part of this special type of practice or deliberate practice is that every writing session you give yourself a mini goal. So for the next 25 minutes, I am going to draft the purpose statement for this paper that I'm working on. And I know it's going to be a really bad draft. I don't care. Right now, I'm just going to write it. Or for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to write 10 different versions of the title for this paper. And then later I'll take a break and I'll come back and I'll choose the best one type of thing. Set a mini goal for each of your writing sessions or each of your practice sessions and see if you met that goal at the end of the session or not. Another strategy, another practice, another behavior that's really useful is the logging, is keeping track of what you are writing or how you are writing. I put in the slide, you'll see log writing time. It doesn't matter really what you log. Different people like to log different things. I like to log my writing time, how much time I spent. Some people like to log how many words they wrote. Some people like to log how many pages they wrote, whatever it is. But the principle behind it, and Dr. Lightfoot, who's in kinesiology, knows that there's research behind this idea that if you want to change a behavior related to exercise, for instance, you want to exercise more or in a certain way, if you keep track of that, if you continually write down when you did it and what you did, etc., it happens. It tends to happen a lot more than if you don't keep track of that. So do you have a strategy in your system for keeping track of what you're doing? I can go on and on, talk a whole hour about the benefits of keeping a writing log and then sharing that writing log for accountability with other people. I do that. I've been doing this for decades. Till this day, right now, I share my writing log every week with 2 other faculty members, and they share theirs with me, basically. And that's for accountability and support, basically, right? So that's the share, the writing log with the writing buddy. Another strategy that is often overlooked is use writing as a tool for your own professional and personal growth, and to develop and to deepen your thinking. So we need to start thinking about writing as something more than just a tool to report our research, okay? Because it is a lot more than that. So writing to think. Don't have time to talk about that. It's one of my favorite topics, actually. But, the Protestant reformer Martin Luther said, if you want to change the world, grab a pen. Writing can do so much more for you than just report your research findings. It can help you think, it can help you learn, it can help change the world. So start looking into that. Another strategy is accepting messy drafts. Accept that in the moment that you're generating, it's going to look bad and it's going to look horrible. You're going to be disappointed with yourself, but you don't have to share that with anybody. You can share it when it's better, when it looks polished, but learn to accept that because it's an important part of the process. And then here's just a suggestion for journaling the writing process. For each writing project I have, I like to have a journal for it. Again, don't have time to get into the details, but I'll show you strategy or tools that will help. So in using these strategies, the goal is sustainability, is to develop a writing habit that is healthy. It's not stressful. It actually lowers the amount of stress that you have with writing, if you have any. And we all have some stress with writing anyway. But it lowers the amount of stress and it makes it sustainable. Many of you are going to go into academic careers. You're going to be writing for the rest of your life, basically, right? You're looking at something that you're going to be doing for 20, 30, 40 years from now. So how do you do it in a way that you don't burn out? How do you do it in a way that is absolutely healthy and sustainable? So if you use strategies and think about writing as a system, then you're thinking something that can be sustained over time. So developing a deliberate practice approach to writing is that writing is something that should be practiced and improved. It will really help you, if you put these strategies into practice, help you avoid burning out and will help you get into a habit that is more automatic. The more automaticity you can give to the writing habit, the better it will be to sustain it and the less emotional energy you'll be wasting. Because here's the issue. If you write every day at the same time every day, you just write at that time. You don't even think about when am I going to write. But if you don't have a regular writing habit or a regular time for writing, for instance, you go throughout the day like this. Oh my goodness, it's 4:30 and I haven't written yet and I need to write. When am I going to write? Well, I can't do it right now because I have to, get the kids at school, whatever. And my goodness, it's 7 o'clock and I haven't written yet. And just that little bit of oh my goodness, this is that. When am I going to do that? That is wasted emotional energy that you could be using for the creative aspects of your writing. But if you do it every day anyway, just like you brush your teeth, hopefully you don't spend any emotional energy worrying about when are you going to brush your teeth, or something that's very automatic in your life. That's the kind of automaticity, that's the goal that you want to develop for your writing habit. So pre-COVID, right now, COVID days, my writing habits have changed quite a bit, and I'm thinking it's temporary. But pre-COVID, early mornings were my writing sessions, very early mornings. And when people ask me, how did the writing go today, Dr. Goodson? And I would go, I'd have to do a double take, like did I do the, oh, of course I did the writing, because it's so automatic. It's just like asking me, did you close your garage door when you went out? And I go, oh, did I not? It's so automatic. That's what you want. If you can get to that level of automaticity with your writing, the stress just deflates a lot, okay? And deliberate practice. So deliberate practice, I told you, is an approach that is a special type of practice that has these 3 characteristics. One of them is you set goals for that practice session, and then you slow down for your practice. You really slow down and you pay attention, and you're very intentional about what you're doing while you're doing it. But it also has another characteristic, which is a feedback loop. I don't have time to explain all of that. Again, I'll show you resources that have information on that. But if you can approach your writing from this perspective, it will change things for you. It did for me, and it has for a lot of people that I've worked with. So in terms of a set of tools here, I'm going to leave the tools as resources at the very end of this presentation. But the set of tools there are tons of tools out there for writers in terms of software programs, resources for, and I'm going to give some of them here, resources to sustain your academic writing with information, with actual tools like apps and software and books and different tips and tricks and stuff like that also. So I'm going to mention some of these tools at the very end as resources, but I want to talk about the other element in the system that is support. And that's something that, oh my goodness, makes such a difference in sustaining your habit over time. Academic writers need at least 3 types of support. They need emotional support and social support, and they also need a very specific type of support that I'm calling instrumental support. So emotional and social support, we kind of get the notion of that, right? We need people that will continue to love us even though we're bad writers, and especially when we're going through a bad writing period in our lives, and they don't care. We need that, right? But we need that emotional support. But we also need social support from people that are in the same boat as we are. People who are not academic writers or don't write or are not in an academic setting often do not understand the pressures we are under for our writing, how difficult it is to do good quality academic writing. And so what we really need, we need some kind of social support within that structure of academia. So what is your support? Do you have your peers around you that can help you and sustain you with support? Do you have a writing buddy, or one partner sometimes is enough? Do you have a small writing group? Can you start one? And I would encourage you to start thinking about who's your crew. If you take my writing class or the writing studios, I talk there about how academic writing, I compare it to extreme sports. Academic writing and ultra marathons is my favorite analogy, right? So academic writing is not a sprint, it's an ultra marathon. It's something that you have to endure for a very long period of time, but you cannot do alone at all. So if you know anything about ultra marathons, people who run ultra marathons have a crew, and that crew is there to support, meet the needs, and make sure that that runner gets to the finish line in one piece. It's amazing what they do. I always go, why don't they just register and run for the race themselves? Because they're running often side by side with the runner, the crew is. So the question is, who's your crew? you need a crew. You need a support crew to get to the finish line in one piece and continue after the finish line, because your writing is not going to stop there, right? You're going to continue. Who's your crew? And you have to have people that really understand the complexity and the intricacies of academic writing that can really, truly support you in the process, okay? But a special type of support that academic writers need is instrumental support in the form of feedback. They need that feedback loop into the deep practice thing that I was talking about. How do you get that feedback? You have to go after that. And again, I can spend about 2 hours talking about the issue of support and feedback. But what you need to remember is this: writing is a process. It's a dynamic process. And your writing project develops just like a baby develops into an adult. It's an organism and it grows, and it needs input into that system as it grows in order for it to grow. A baby needs food and nutrition to grow. Your writing needs feedback, but it needs feedback not at the very end of the writing process where you wrote a 30-page paper, you pulled your hair out and you stressed out completely, and you turn in the paper and then it comes back all marked up and all changed, and it's just a shock to your system, right? That's not the ideal feedback whatsoever that you should be getting. When you're writing something, especially a 30-page paper, you need to be getting feedback all along the development process of that writing. The trick is that you need different types of feedback at different moments of the development. Feedback that is developmentally appropriate for that moment. So just like you'll not give a T-bone steak to a 3-month-old baby, you should not, when you're in your first shitty draft, like Anne Lamott talks about first shitty drafts, everybody has them. When it's your first shitty draft, you don't want anybody correcting your grammar or your punctuation. That's not the kind of feedback you need at that moment. You need feedback like, is this a good idea? Should I pursue this at all, right? Leave the correction of the commas and the grammar for when all the ideas are down and they're organized, and now let's clean it up for these things. So appropriate feedback at the appropriate developmental moment of that writing piece is crucial. But we have not learned that. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I hadn't learned that. I had to discover that on my own in a way. But we need to change the way we ask for and that we actually give feedback to other writers. But feedback all along the way is going to be one of the best ways to support your writing and make sure that at the end there are no surprises either, right? So there are different types of feedback that I mentioned here. I'm not going to have time to get to it. My timer already dinged, so let me just mention the next 2 slides that have resources and tools here. So the set of tools, this is a limited set, but it'll help you start pulling the thread for some of them. So here's some resources, folks. Power Hour, Power Services. I have to plug it in here, but go and make an appointment with a Power Hour consultant. Talk about, I want to learn some more strategies and tips. I have a Power Hour. It's on the schedule. If you see my name on the schedule, it's free. Make an appointment with me. We can talk about these things, or I can give you feedback on your writing, whatever you want. Register for the Power Writing Studios. Right now, we have actually increased one type of studio. So I have the basic studio, the advanced studio, and now the grant writing studio. And they're free, and they're just 4 meetings of 2 hours each every month. So middle of the month, registration opens for the next month. So go to power.tamu.edu. It's all explained there. And the basic studio will talk about the sustainable writing habit. The advanced studio, I talk about what you need to know if you're going to write for publication in academia. And then if you want the basics of grant writing, how to look for funding for research, there's a grant writing studio that Dr. Jim Izett is teaching also. And here are some resources. And Tim, I didn't know you were going to be in this, but I'm glad that I did put your book right here, which is fun because it's very useful. So let me start with the first one. Helen Sward, an academic person in University of Auckland in New Zealand. She has started an online writing service that is superb. She's written several books about academic writing that are amazing. Go take a look at her website and use her services. There's some paid services and a lot of free stuff. Engage with her. Subscribe to her newsletter. It's free newsletter. It's absolutely top-notch quality writing and books and anything with Helen Sword's name. I vouch for it for sure. This book, second book, Write More, Publish More, Stress Less, is a required reading in my writing productivity course. Donnell Stevens is a colleague from the Textbook and Academic Authors Association. Really great book. It's chock full of strategies and tools and tips and do this and do that, and here's a log for this, and here's an example of destructuring this, and it's just fantastic. I have my book there. I have a conflict of interest in mentioning my books, but not looking for you to buy them. Good library, and the Becoming an Academic Writer is, I think it's in the library. Sometimes it disappears, but it's in the library. It's structured as exercises, and it has everything I talked about here in this presentation. It's detailed there in a step-by-step way, like do this, then do that. The next one is my most recent book that I put here. I don't know if the library has it, but this one is designed as 1 page a day, just to keep your motivation going. So it has inspiration, tips, strategies, and even has cartoons. So it's a fun little book to just keep us going, I think. It was fun to write, and I actually find it fun to read once in a while too. And I put Dr. Lightfoot's book here on finding the best faculty job for you, because I think it's a gem of a tool, folks. Because many of you are going to go into academia. This book covers all of the essentials from, I'm considering an academic job. What kind of job should I look for? From that point until actually even preparing you for your interviews, and all through the writing of the cover letters, the application letters, the statements, and all that sort of stuff. Take a look. A really, really useful tool. And thanks, Tim, for writing that book, because it's much needed in the field. And last but not least, Publish and Flourish by Dr. Tara Gray, Become a Prolific Scholar. It's a tiny little book, and Tara Gray is the person responsible for me doing what I'm doing today. It was because I attended a workshop with her for faculty here at A&M, is why I started the whole venture with Power. So that's what I had to say, and I want to stop then here so I can give you 15 minutes, not too bad, for questions. So I apologize for the rush. It's too much information. Like I said, it's hard to even say what writing is in 40 minutes. So questions that you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Goodson. So yes, if anyone has questions at this point, please unmute and let us know.
Yeah, you're either overwhelmed, so you don't have any questions, don't even know what to ask.
Dr. Goodson, I was going to comment. You were talking about using some of these tools not in isolation, but as as a system. And when I was finishing my dissertation, I came to the point where I had basically gridlock. I couldn't write. I couldn't think. So what I did is I set aside 2 hours every morning, and I wrote chunks. And in those chunks, I just put down a bunch of ideas. This is what I want to talk about. This is where I want to go with this. And over a course of 6 months, I finished my dissertation.
There you go.
That you can't just do writing for 2 hours or whatever. Yeah, because I had been binge writing for years and years and years. I would write for 3 or 4 hours, and then I'd be exhausted for the rest of the week. So there was just no point in it. Yes. But if I would write for those 2 hours, and I would write little bits at a time, then I would take a break, and then write some more, and then I would take a break. So I know that the system works, and I am just like you. I'm one of those that I will procrastinate until the very last minute. But when I had this system of I told everyone that I was working with, these 2 hours from 7 to 9 o'clock in the morning, don't bother contacting me, because I'm going to be out. And nobody did. So that's how I got my dissertation finished. So.
Absolutely. I have a colleague in my department, Erin. She's now a colleague, but she was a doctoral student in our department. And while she was a doctoral student, she was one of the directors at the Butyl Health Center at A&M. So she had a full-time job, had 2 little boys, like 2 and 3 year old boys, and was doing her doctoral dissertation. And so she had taken my class and all that. So she decided to arrive at the office half an hour earlier every day. And in half an hour before she had to start work and open her door to everybody and just start her job, half an hour every day was how she completed. She did a wonderful job, and finished it right on time and had no problems whatsoever. So it works, Erin. But I think now I'm learning that it works, but not if you do just one thing. Like you were scheduling it at that same time, and you were also protecting that time, and you had a strategy for how you were going to proceed during that time. So those things together is what really tends to work, not just, oh, go and write every day. That alone probably won't work.
And the other thing that really helped is because I live in Montgomery and I was commuting to A&M, so the hour that I had before that 7 o'clock, I was preparing myself. Okay, you're going to write about this, and I mean talking to myself in the car. So,
but here's what I would have done different, Erin. If you were talking to yourself in the car, I would be recording myself.
I didn't think of that until you said it, and I was like, oh my gosh, all the conversations I had with myself
Yes.
could have been recorded.
Because
So,
when I start writing something, Erin, what it looks like are conversations with myself. I'm rambling with myself, like, oh, I agreed to write in this project. What was I thinking? And I really don't know what to say. That's what I'm writing, but I'm writing already. I'm immersed in it somehow. Nobody's going to read that. But after several days of doing that talking to myself, stuff starts coming out. It starts happening. Yeah, cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
So Dr. Goodson, I probably have the issue of I want to sit and write for 2 hours or more because I'm afraid if I get up, my ideas will just vanish. So what reassurance do you have for me and others who might have that issue that that's not going to happen?
It's not going to happen if you're prepared for it, Karen. So have ways of capturing your thoughts everywhere you are, including in the shower. So have a way to record yourself or to write down stuff next to your bed at night, because you'll wake up in the middle of the night with an idea. And if you go, oh, I'll remember it in the morning, you won't. And the more, there's something that happens, Karen, but I don't know how to explain it. And so I call it magic because I haven't seen any science behind it. The more you capture the ideas, the more you get into the habit of, let me write it down, and without judging, is this a good idea or bad idea? Don't just write it down. The more ideas you have. It seems like it sends a signal to your mind that we're open for business. And therefore, it starts sending you all these great ideas. The moment you stop capturing them, you stop having them. It's amazing. They just don't come anymore. But the moment you're ready everywhere. So for the shower, I learned about water crayons. Like truly, I write on the shower stalls ideas and graphs and stuff because I have my best idea, because you're relaxing in a shower. You're more creative, right? And I don't want to get my iPad wet or anything. So I'll just do that on the shower stall, take a photo of that, and it wipes out clean with water. It's just really, really simple. So when you're exercising, when you're out for a leisurely walk, have something, your phones or something that you can capture that idea. And without judgment, don't start saying, oh, that's not a good idea, I'm not going to record it. No, just record it later, decide whether it's a good idea or not, because what you're doing is you're opening the tap. And as you open the tap, you're going to have more and more ideas. It's amazing. So.
Thank you. That's great.
Glad you got that out, Karen.
Hello, Dr. Goodson. Hello, Dr. Goodson. First of all, I have to say I really like your workshop, which I attended a year ago. It is really helpful. Currently, I'm using a lot of the suggestions you taught us on my dissertation writing. As you talked about the support from the peers. But currently we have the special situation that most of us are working at home. We're like self-isolated. So I was wondering, considering the current situation, do you have any good suggestions to get to get the peer review, like a peer support efficiently? Like if there's any softwares or some good ways for us to get support from others, because this is really a problem for me, at least for me, because not just on my writing, but also from my work. I am very isolated from my colleagues. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of ideas that come to mind. First of all, if you go to the Power website, we now have what we're calling the Power Partners. So it's a list of people that are been trained in the Power model, and they're volunteering to pair up with people. Like, so if you want a writing buddy somehow, choose a person, get in contact with that person from that list, and see if it works. And if it doesn't work with that person, try with somebody else. But the idea is that those people are there to become writing buddies. They're not necessarily trained to give you feedback on your writing, though. But you can exchange feedback. You give some, they give some, and etc. But they're not trained for that. If you want feedback on your writing, then go use the Power Consultants and schedule a Power Hour with people and bring a bit of the writing. But I think what you can do also is talk to some of your, I hope you have some colleagues or friends, one or two would be enough, that would be willing, like you could get together by Zoom once a week. And I have a writing group that meets Thursday night with my Power group people where we get together, we say hi to each other, and then I time 25 minutes that we're all writing on our individual stuff, and then 5-minute break, we come together and chat a little bit, and then we go and write for more 25 minutes, and we come and chat. So you could develop that with a couple of your colleagues that might be interested in doing that also. But like I said, use the Power Partners too. I think the Writing Center, I don't know what they're doing, but they always give feedback too on the actual writing. And I'm sure that they have adapted to the COVID situation and are doing it online also. So that's another resource that you can take advantage of for sure. But all that it takes is to have to chat with a couple of your friends and say, do you feel the need for this? Should we try to get together and try to do something? And you don't need a whole group, like 50 people, just 2 or 3 people, that's enough. And it can already get you going and moving ahead and at least keeping you motivated, if nothing else. But that group can also, you can agree on giving feedback to each other. Now, before you start doing that, I would recommend you read my book on the feedback part, because you need to speak the same language about feedback. And people need to know that when it's a first shitty draft, we're not going to correct the commas and the grammar, okay? And if everybody doesn't speak that language and understands what is appropriate at different moments, it can be a bit harsh or traumatic or upsetting sometimes, because you go with a piece. You present one page to your group and you say, can you tell me if you think this is a great idea? And they're correcting your grammar. It's very deflating and it's very that's not what I wanted, right? So it's important that the group understand this language of appropriate feedback at appropriate moments of the writing piece. If you can do that, so it's easier to get a group together and learn together about that and then practice with each other. You'll be amazed at how far just a little bit of support goes. You don't need a whole lot to actually translate into a lot of outcomes. So give that a try.
Dr. Goodson, and then Fubio as well. Again, thank you for this presentation. I think, you mentioned overwhelmed, but I think we need all these strategies. And, I've attended some of your sessions too, like Fubio mentioned, and we learned something. And so just recently, my friend and I have started an emotional support group, and we meet in the mornings to write. And so, we'll discuss our goals in the beginning, and then at the end, we'll discuss, did we achieve them? What were some of the barriers that we came across? And we talk about it. And so, I found her, like you said, I'm a morning person. It needs to happen in the morning for me. And the same for her. She actually has some challenges with the morning, but she likes that, that is the best time to produce writing for her as well. So I'm kind of motivating her. And so, Fubio, I will reach out and, if you're a morning person and you like to, write, then of course, you can come and join. We don't give each other much feedback, but I know like today I was having some challenges with like my methodology, and she suggested something. And if it's just something to, discuss with someone else, and it may spark an idea, something that you hadn't thought of before.
Sometimes you don't need the other person to say anything, but just hearing yourself talk through something, you find the solution for that, right? Exactly. But it has a very important effect. Yes, that's a great idea for you guys to get there. And maybe Kim and Karen, maybe what you guys, a suggestion could do is maybe get a list of the people that were here today and make it available to the people that were here today to see if you guys want to find partners in this group. If you know somebody, or you think you would like to know somebody as a partner, a writing partner, that might be something that could happen. I also found out that I cannot put my file here because I'm not the main host of this. So Karen has the file with the newsletter article. It's on page 3 of that newsletter that I wrote an article about thinking about writing as a system. If Karen, if that's okay to ask you to send it to the folks, is that possible?
Yes, I will. We have everyone's email addresses, and so what we'll do is we'll make sure they get copies of that.
Okay, it's not giving me the option to add a file from my computer for some reason. So, yeah. Any other questions? Great questions, and I'm so glad you guys are doing things already with other people. Keep doing it, folks. Keep doing it. It's amazing. You'll be surprising yourself at how much you can get done, the quality of it, and the lower stress in comparison to your peers who are still binge writing and writing against the deadline, that kind of thing.
Dr. Goodson, I have a question. So I do a similar thing to what Myra was talking about in terms of meeting with a friend and doing like a focus session for writing like 3 days in a week. But we use the Pomodoro technique, that 25 minutes and then 5 minutes break. And I find it very difficult, like when I have a flow or if I'm doing something, to break from it. Like I refuse to sometimes, like there's such resistance to it. And I was wondering if you have strategies to like, because I know it's more sustainable to take breaks. So like if you have any strategies for like how to train your mind to get into that kind of like work, but step away.
You don't have, and it's 11 o'clock, folks. If you need to go, go. So I'm just going to answer your question. That you don't need to train your mind to do anything. All you need to do is when the timer beeps, make a note to yourself of where you stopped and where you need to start next. Capture, even if just a bullet list of words or phrases, short phrases with ideas for when I come back from the break, this is where I'm going to go. And really stop. Don't continue. Because if you continue, you risk binging. That's the problem. If you continue, you lose track because it's flowing. And when you look up, you're tired and you binged, right? So, but if you break, but leave clues, very, very tangible clues for where you're going to pick up next, take a break and come back. There are 2 things that happen. 1, you won't forget those ideas because they're right there in clue form, right? The short form. You know exactly where to start again. And 2nd, you can't wait to come back. And that is a really good feeling that we often have to create because you're not going to feel that very often when you're academic writing, right? Doing it. It's not very common. But when you can't wait to come back, there's more extra energy when you come back to that session also. And there's no risk that you will lose that idea because the break is short, first of all. And 2nd, you took notes about where you were and where you need to keep going. That little break will actually mature those ideas while you're doing, like you're walking around the block or you're lifting a few weights for 5 minutes. Your subconscious is working still. You haven't abandoned them. And the break is not long enough for the idea to completely be gone. When you come back better, actually, for the next writing session. So every time that people ask me that, I say, yes, stop. And it's hard because you're on a roll and you're afraid of losing it. But stop with the strategy of, okay, let me tell myself where to start next and capture everything here very quickly, very briefly, take a break, and can't wait to come back type of feeling. So.
Dr. Goodson, I had a question for you.
Sure.
So I'm in a position where I have a full-time job and I have to write as part of that process. But I'm also a part-time doctoral student, which requires me to write in that situation. So sometimes I feel like a little overwhelmed with just the amount of writing that both of those pieces require. And so just kind of what are some recommendations you might have to kind of help find a balance between those two, so I don't feel, because I do binge on the weekend because that's my school time usually. And so I don't think it's a healthy habit.
It's hard, Allison, because what you do have is you have two jobs, right? And both jobs, writing is a major part of those two jobs. Being a graduate student is a job in a way, and the most important thing that you're doing is writing. But first of all, I don't believe in balance. I'm sorry. Because of my complex systems perspective, a system that is completely in balance is a dead system. So think about your heart and your circulatory system. When the heart is completely in balance, it's dead. So we actually need a lot of dynamics, and what we can hope for in our very full lives, what we can hope for are moments of what's called punctuated equilibrium. There are moments where there's an equilibrium, but it's going to be shattered, and we need to be okay with that. So what we need to develop, Allison, somehow, I think, are rhythms and routines. So maybe strategize so you have writing, blocks of writing time during the day for your work-related writing, and maybe you book in that with, let's say, half an hour before you start your work hours, half an hour where you do some of your academic writing before that, just half an hour, and then end the work day with half an hour of the academic writing, the school writing. And maybe if you do that, you're able to decrease the load from the weekend, because you do need longer breaks. You do need the weekend when you have two jobs. I hate to say it, but you need a little bit more time. So maybe strategize in terms of rhythm. So here's where learning about yourself as a writer really helps. Like, when do you write best? If it's morning, prioritize the most critical writing, or the one that has the most urgency for that time where you're fresher. And do the types of writing that are more mechanical, like memos maybe, or minutes, or a technical report that's kind of repetitive or whatever. Leave those for times of day when you know your energy is lower, and plan it that way, and try for a week, and then evaluate that plan and redo it if you need to adapt and adjust. But propose for yourself something temporary and say, I'm going to try this strategy and this rhythm for a few days. Try it for a week. I'm going to try it for a week, and then I'm going to see if it works. If it doesn't, I'll tweak it and adjust it until you find it's all about the rhythm. When you find that rhythm, you're able to keep all of those plates floating in the air, like the circus people that do those circling plates. Does that make sense? I can't give you very specific strategies, Allison, because I don't know details, right? But in principle, I would say try to strategize that way vis-a-vis your energy. How much energy at what time of day, it determines what kind of writing you're going to be devoting time to.
Well, thank you, everybody, for attending today's session. Let's show our appreciation for Dr. Goodson. You can give a reaction or show your
being here. Just being here. I appreciate your time. I really do.
Yes, I think no matter where we are, whether we're graduate students or we've been writing and publishing for years, all of this is valuable information, and all of us need the reminders and even hearing about some of the new strategies. So thank you again. Thank you all to everyone who's attended today, and we hope you will join us in 2 weeks for another session. We will be sending out emails.
And they know where to find the slides so they can get the information from today?
Yes, I will be sending that out. I have your presentation in a link, and I'll just send it as a presentation link as well as the newsletter.
Oh, perfect.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, folks.